Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about the natal chart of Tyler Trent. Birthday is September 7th, 1998. Birth time unavailable. I couldn't find it online. But anyway, some of you may have heard of him. Recently, he's come into some fame and exposure notoriety on ESPN. I believe, in my opinion anyway, it's a story of a lot of inspiration, courage, and fortitude. This person was diagnosed with bone cancer in 2014. One day his arm inexplicably snapped when he was playing ultimate frisbee. It's been discovered and ascertained he has osteosarcoma, which is what it is. It's a potentially interminable cancer. This is a cancerous malignant tumor that is in a bone, and this is potentially terminal and perilous, and it depends on whether he can get a reversal on it or not. I don't remember the percentages that this actually can happen, but to me, I don't think it looks that good at this point. But only those believers, can pray, and we could hope. The non-believers can hope that maybe that the universe has something more auspicious in store for him. But anyway, the thing about it is he's currently under hospice care, and he has fought what probably has felt to him like basically a perpetual battle against this bone cancer. Now, he helped, what I believe, in my opinion anyway, he has helped inspire the Purdue Boilermakers to a stunning upset victory over a very formidable Ohio State NCAA football team. Now, with the sun in Virgo, Tyler's basic character may be very analytical, meticulous with details, very industrious and hardworking, very scrupulous and proper, and wanting to do things in the ethical and honest manner, often with a lot of integrity, and perhaps very service-oriented, which I believe he is. Now, given he has his, based on the solar, what I had to do is I want to backtrack. I'm sorry that I did. It's a solar/sunrise chart, in which I put the sun at the same position as the ascendant. And based on that, the moon is in Pisces, but it could be in Aries if he was born at a later time in the day. But based on the sunrise solar chart, moon in Pisces, well, if this is the case and he does have the moon in Pisces, this would perhaps signify emotional needs that may include poetry, dancing, things of a rather fantastical nature, and it also makes a conjunction to his Jupiter, now which could amplify and enlarge those tendencies. It might even give some luck and fortune in those Pisces moon, as far as things that he may be doing in connection with the Pisces moon, indeed, if he does have moon in Pisces. Now, he is, or at least was, a participant in some Raleigh dance marathon, which raises money for kids at this Raleigh hospital. It wouldn't surprise me if he does indeed have this moon in Pisces, and even with the Jupiter is in Pisces, regardless of time, that he may be into fantasy football. In being that if his moon is in Pisces, that he would be more empathetic and compassionate than the typical Virgo sun. Now, and I would not be surprised. You look at the Virgo and Pisces energy, he might be very good at like this extrapolation of data and projection of fantasy stats, so I could see him doing something with fantasy football. But anyway, now based on the solar sunrise chart, 6 of his 10 planets are on the top half of the chart. That could suggest more extroversion than introversion, but as far as the major astrological influences go, and this could be somewhat subjective, I'm going, of course, with the 10 planets, the MC, and the ascendant. Only 5 of them were in masculine signs, so 7 of them are in feminine. So it's a fairly good balance between the actual where the planets are positioned in his chart and where and as far as the actual placements and where the planets are positioned, the MC and the signs that they're in the ascendant, which of course, because it's solar sunrise chart, it is Virgo. The combination of those are such where it seems like he would have a good balance between extroversion and introversion, because like I said, he's got 6 of the 10 planets above the horizon in houses 7 through 12, and then he has 7 of the 12 major astrological influences, which I consider the 10 planets. The MC and the ascendant are in feminine signs, so it's a fairly good balance between extroversion and introversion, optimism and pessimism, and being objective as opposed to being subjective. So there can be a little vacillation and wavering with those energy, but at the same time, it shows that he could have a very good balance with that as well. So anyway, and another thing about him too is that he also has a balance of planets on the left and right side of the chart. Now this could show some vacillation and wavering between self-reliance and independence. He may have a good idea and conception when it is the right time to ask for others to help him do things, and then also to do things on his own and independently. It could be a good balance of collaborating with others and doing things independently. So anyway, well, another thing is he has the majority of those major astrological influences in earth signs. So this could emphasize and accentuate a lot of pragmatism, practicality. He is very likely to be very astute with things of an economical nature. He had been taking, I believe, some course in business analytics or something similar to that. And he probably emphasizes and accentuates a lot of premeditation and planning as well. I could see him compiling a lot of lists before actually doing things and writing things down ahead of time, getting things marked on his calendar. So he's well ahead of schedule, and he has all these things planned out well prior to when he actually does them. Now, another thing is that with all that strong energy in Earth, he probably also has a lot of prudence and caution. Now, he also has a preponderance of these major astrological influences in mutable signs. So he is likely apt to make most of the compromises in relationships, and probably is a person that's very pliable, adaptable, and as the quality of these signs mutable. And he is often probably apt to acquiesce to others' wishes instead of demanding and insisting on having things his own way and doing what he wants. Now, the thing about it is when you have a lot of mutable energy, sadly, a lot of times you might be more apt to cave in and to do what others want. And sometimes, I mean, you might have your own interests that might take precedence over others, but you might at the same time be inclined to put them aside, sadly, for the sake of doing something for others. And he has in that Pisces energy, especially if he does have his moon in Pisces, he does have the Jupiter in Pisces, so there is could be a lot of that enlargement of self-sacrificing energy, and having it in the 7th house in the solar/sunrise chart, doing these for others in his relationships. Now, again, well, what I want to get to, but at the same time, he probably could be very adaptable to adverse circumstances. So anyway. Well, his final or chart signature is in Virgo. Now, as I've stated in previous videos, I don't think that the final or chart signature supersedes the sun, moon, or ascendant in its significance or importance, its impact on the chart. But given that this is in the same sign as his sun sign, this could accentuate and reinforce that Virgo sun energy and characteristics. This could give a lot of emphasis on punctuality, reliability, being very punctilious with details, and being analytical. I mean, the final chart chart signature is supposed to give like this overall, I guess, like this tone or that feel to the chart. But anyway. And again, those Virgo qualities and characteristics may be very strongly emphasized and accentuated. Now, one thing I believe when I looked at stands out in his chart, that he has Neptune in Capricorn at 29 degrees. It is a singleton planet. It's the only planet in a cardinal sign. Now, as I've talked about before, he has some kind of bone cancer called osteosarcoma. Hold on a moment, people. Sorry about that. I'm back. Now, I believe, this is can be connected with this bone degeneration and loss. And remember, Neptune in Capricorn in extreme situations. I know it's a generational position, but it can indicate, I believe, dissolving or dissipation of the bones. Given this is at 29 degrees, and when you have something at 29 degrees, I see this as that full culmination of that energy. It's at a critical degree, and it may be more emphasized and pronounced, more prominent, because it is a singleton planet. It's at, and remember that Capricorn can be associated with the bones, and Neptune could be this dissolving and dissipation of energy. So that's really, it's real, or dissolving dissipation energy. This is something, now it falls in his fifth house in his solar/sunrise chart. So this could obviously have had a very strong impact on his fun, his amusement, and enjoyment. Now, and also, this could also be about very emphasized regimented chemotherapy and spirituality, because you have the blending of Capricorn and of course the Neptune energy. Also, too, sadly, I noticed that he has in this chart the ruler of his sixth house in the eighth house, which sadly could indicate a death connected with a chronic debilitation. Now, he has Mercury based on, this is based on the solar sunrise time and chart. Mercury at 29 degrees Leo in the 12th house of limitations and restrictions. It's his 10th house ruler, so this could be connected with notoriety. But he had stated something, again, going back to his arm, when something happened and it snapped when he was throwing a frisbee. Now, remember that Mercury in the 12th, Mercury is not just about communications. It can be about the arms. And the thing about this is Mercury in the 12th just by itself may give some limitations or restrictions with mobility in the arms. And being in Leo, this something had happened in connection with sports. Now, I'm not saying that that's why he got this osteosarcoma or what have you, but when it really became more noticeable, it was through when he was doing something sports related. Now, again, the 29th degree is a critical degree, and it can give issues. But 29 degrees can give issues with something Mercury related, whether it could be communication or dissemination or assimilation of information, which I don't know if he has or not, but I do understand that he does have the issues, of course, with at least one of his arms. Now, and again, another thing that stood out to me, I think that may be connected astrologically with the issue he has, or issues physically. Now, Saturn, again, the ruler of his sixth house of health, falls, it's in the eighth house. Saturn is retrograde as well. Now, this could be an indicator that this is the ruler of the eighth and the sixth, being Saturn in retrograde. This could be an indicator of a possible death through a bone reduction or some reversal. And given that this is Taurus, this could be something that might have been very, very kind of by painstaking, very methodical, and seemed like it was good. Sadly, it might be a thing that might feel very painstaking and really going on for maybe a longer time, going slower that this is than it actually is. Now, another thing that I noticed in the solar/sunrise chart of his is that he has a mutable T-square configuration, which involves an opposition from the MC in Gemini to Pluto in Sagittarius, which is in the third house, but conjunct the fourth house cusp. And both of those points receive a square from the Sun in Virgo in the first house. So when you're talking about a mutable Mutable T-square in astrology can give much nervousness, worrisome nature, very apprehensive nature, a lot of very fearful and much vacillation and ambivalence and indecision, could give a lot of restless, changeable energy. Now, and again, and T-squares in general can give much tribulation and adversity for one to overcome. There might be many obstructions that the person may have to contend with. But at the same time, when you have a mutable T-square, it can give strong powers of adaptability and pliability in order to deal with these situations. Now, given he has, when you look at this, the opposition from this Gemini MC to Pluto conjunct the fourth house cusp, well, this could indicate that he might be having some kind of pull in trying to deal perhaps with power, maybe power and control in his home life, which is the Pluto conjunct the fourth, and opposing trying to deal with this notoriety and recognition connected with these journalists, these writers, people in the media, and which of course is figuring prominently in him receiving this notoriety and exposure and recognition. The fact that both those points, okay, the focal point being that Sun in Virgo, sadly this could indicate that this is this point of over accentuation and overemphasis to deal with that opposition. It might be resulting for him in a lot of maybe a focus on some kind of work, or maybe not necessarily work, but maybe just a lot of this worrisome energy, just a lot of I think it could give perhaps a focus on his worry at this time, sadly, given that this is the Virgo Sun, and maybe a focus on a lot of analysis and how maybe it might result in a focus on over-analysis in trying to deal and balance both of those energies out. I think is maybe one way is how this could be manifesting with him. Now, another really that's basically, I mean, but the one other thing I wanted to talk about in terms of his chart is that he has again the Jupiter in Pisces in the 7th house. Of course, Jupiter in Pisces is in its dignity, and one of them anyway. Of course, one of them is Jupiter in Sagittarius, and then you have Jupiter in Pisces, the other one. Now, it's in Jupiter being given that in the 7th house. This could be a lot of luck and fortune through perhaps overlooking the transgressions of others in open adversaries. I mean, I remember I saw something one time, somebody had put some derogatory remark on one of his pages, and put all kinds of very hurtful things, and he didn't respond to it. I'm sure he probably saw it. I mean, Virgos generally, I mean, they're not oblivious to too many things. They generally notice most things, and even those things that a lot of us are that overlook that we might be oblivious to. So I think he probably did see it, but I mean, he overlooked it. I believe he ignored it and overlooked it. And I think, you know, you have a lot of this with that Jupiter in Pisces in the 7th house energy. And it could also be there might be an expansion and enlargement perhaps of spiritual relationships as well. Maybe those with the metaphysical, possibly. People that are in that are Pisces related, could be people that are in poetry and dancers, and it could be a very strong enlargement of those relationships and connections as well. And it wouldn't surprise me that this, I mean, given that the 7th house represents one of the grandmothers, that he probably has had a very enlarged, compassionate relationship with a lot of self-sacrifice in connection with that person as well, and a lot of empathetic energy. So anyway, sorry, there actually is, well, I said that was the last thing before, but one more thing I want to touch up on. He also has mutual reception based on the solar sun retrograde. He has the mutual reception with the sun in Virgo and Mercury in Leo. And a mutual reception, for those of you that don't know what that is, that's when you have the planets in each other's signs. So if they were actually in their dignity, of course, the sun would be in Leo, Mercury would be in Virgo, but in this case, he has the sun in Virgo, Mercury in Leo, and they're in mutual reception. Now, in the past, previously, there's basically the general rule of thumb, so to speak, was that when someone would have a mutual reception, they would actually work like they were the planets were in their actual dignities. But what it is the more contemporary belief of astrologers is that what a mutual reception does, it makes these energies integrate well and work very well together, and they don't have to be aspected necessarily to be working well together. And the thing about it is, given that he has that mutual reception between the Sun, Virgo, and Mercury in Leo, I think a lot of this, I wouldn't be surprised if he could be very proficient at very creative and or sports writing with the focus on details. So I think that could be one way that can manifest. And I think he could also be someone that could talk confidently about himself, a lot of self-assuredness, but not necessarily come off as arrogant or bombastic in that process, because you have the Virgo energy blending in, and he's able to shine in the spotlight without a lot of people necessarily thinking that he's overly arrogant or egotistical or he's clamoring for attention. I think it's just something that's coming very naturally with him. So anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment for my natal chart analysis of Tyler Trent. Stay tuned next time, where I'm going to be talking about the upcoming December 7th, 2018 new moon in Sagittarius. Two things I want to get with you on before I head out. Firstly, the stars may impel but do not compel. And secondly, never isolate any single astrological element, aspect, planetary placement, position, configuration, influence, or what have you, and make an analysis of a person, astrologically speaking, based on this alone, because astrologically speaking, the person is the sum of all their components in their natal chart and not just one. Until next time, people, stay well.